even if Tekken had like rollback netcode and everything, are we really going to be hype over tournament stuff? I don't think so. I don't think we're going to be hype over anything that is online. I really just don't think so. It doesn't matter how good online is. It's never going to be as thrilling as a real life tournament. It just will never have that amazing sense of wow, that's so cool. You know, it's just going to be naked dudes sitting on their couches. Everyone is sick of it because of COVID, anyways. Yeah, I mean, everyone's sick of online shit. Like, look, I'm cool. I think originally I thought online fighting games could never work out, but I'm being honest here. I think Strive really has a good shot of making it okay. But it's not ever going to be a tournament. It's okay for people to play the game. But we're talking about, don't just tell me to fuck off. I'm trying to say, like, if you're making a fighting game, right now, there's very little reason as just a random pleb to play a fighting game. There is so little reason for it. So little. Listen, just hear me out. If you're just a normal guy that likes video games, fighting games are not very appealing. They just don't have good single player content and their online is garbage. If we can get online to a reasonable state, then at least you can push that, right? You could say fighting games have good online and you can play them online and you can have a good time that way. Great. That's fantastic. That's what we really need for a fighting game to sell as like a basic normie product. Normie product. Make it so you can play online. That doesn't mean that it's a good fighting game that is going to get all this interest, you know, tournament-wise or anything like that. Tournaments belong in person. They belong in person with the pop-offs, with the stick malfunctions, with the anything, you know, with the fucking people screaming at you in the background. Like, it is not hype. It is not hype if there is not people around to hype it up. Normal people don't get their ass beaten, don't want to get their ass beat. It's true. I mean, this is the thing. Like, fighting games have such a hard time being any kind of an appeal because that you gotta get your ass beat like crazy. Even so, even that being the deal, fighting games still sell. And I think a lot of that does kind of come down to making the single-player content somewhat chewable. But it's the presentation, it's the characters, and honestly, I think it's the online these days. I think online is a big deal. Just to even play the base game. You know, just to play a basic fighting game, you have to have very solid online. And we just haven't had solid online in anything except whatever's got this rollback stuff going on. And hopefully, this new one that's coming out, that which shall not be named while Tulet's here, hopefully, that one will prove that fighting games can be played online in a normie capacity. But that still doesn't mean tournament is viable. It doesn't mean that tournament is interesting. You can still have online tournaments, but you cannot make it exciting. You cannot make an online tournament exciting. I'm convinced at this point you can't do it. Nobody's going to enjoy it. You have to have real in-person stuff. And you're telling me that Tekken just did a countdown for online tournaments. That is fucked up. That is really fucked up. I was hoping maybe you were going to say a countdown to, like, real-life tournaments. Which I thought maybe is possible because I think CEO is going to do a real tournament, right? A real in-person tournament. Isn't CEO on for this year? Or NEC or something? I'm pretty sure Jabali is doing stuff, right? Let's count this as a break. I'm not really taking a break. I just need a breather. I think we're about to take the boss on. But yeah, that's fucked up. That's really fucked up. And in Tekken's case, the online is really not that good. I know that they tuned it up recently so it's better, but it really doesn't feel good. Even when you and I played, it really didn't feel good. It felt better than it had been before. And if I still had that spark, maybe I'd still be at it, but it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, you know? That which cannot be named, that one felt good. That one felt good. I liked it. It really felt like I was playing a lot of my training mode there, and I liked it. It's been degrading, the online quality. Yeah, I mean, the online is just the way that we have to play. You know, that's just how it is. In order to engage in the product in a normal fashion, you have to be able to play online. And that's fine. If you get a good, solid online, like what we've been getting lately, and hopefully with this thing going on, kind of proving that it's going to be good, that makes me happy in the sense that we can just buy fighting. Hopefully, in the future, this becomes normal, and in the future, we just buy a fighting game and know that there's a basic level of playability to them. Because what I'm talking about really is like a product. It's a playability. You buy a fighting game, you should be able to play online. That's not really the case with the vast majority of fighting games right now. I think even really like Killer Instinct seems to be the only thing really praised for it. Mortal Kombat 10 and 11 had some pretty good netcode, but I mean, and then netcode's not even really a word, right? But no matter how you splice it, online just hasn't been good. It hasn't been actual good. Not until this rollback shit really kicked in. And never will it be interesting tournament-wise. Never. Never. Just never. It's been the best. I heard Killer Instinct actually is like some kind of GTPO thing or something, or it's its own rollback, or like I don't know. They really worked with some people to make that like a real thing. So I heard Killer Instinct's really good. It's just Killer Instinct killed itself because it was stuck on the Xbox. Nobody wanted to play it. Nobody gave a fuck because it was stuck on the Xbox. By the time it came out of the Xbox, the shit was years later on PC and nobody cared. But, you know, that's what it is. You know, it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but, you know, whatever. That's just how it is. Now we're finally learning the lesson, you know. Now we're learning the lesson of how important it is. Especially because COVID has brought it out to the Japanese, too, right? Anyways, I'm sorry to hear that, man. That's really disappointing that they're just counting down online tournaments. That's sad. But, I don't know. At the same time, like... I mean, I'm ready for Tekken 8. I'm ready for Tekken 8. I would like to wait. I would like them to announce Tekken 8. This is what I would like, okay? Let's talk about Tekken 8. I would like it. Rather than what they did with Tekken 7. You remember Tekken 7 was released over in Asia, I guess. And it was out for, what, 2 years? I think it had a 2-year release in arcades. And then they worked on Fated Retribution. And then Fated Retribution had... How much did that have? I want to say that had like a year of development time, but maybe it was longer. I don't quite remember. I do remember being really depressed over how long we had to wait, but I was tracking the game from its original release till we got it on console, you know? So that's longer than however it's been. I'm not sure how long Fated Retribution, but I'm pretty sure it was a year, maybe longer. And so, after at least 3 years of waiting, Tekken finally came out the consoles, and a lot of people liked it. It was really well balanced, and it was good. And sales figures wise, from what I hear people say, Tekken actually is one of the biggest fighting games. Tekken 7 specifically has been one of the better selling fighting games in recent times. So it's one of the most popular, you know, sales wise. People are buying it, which is kind of surprising because it doesn't have a lot of single player content, right? But, I mean, that's just how well put together the game is. You know, even with bad online and stuff, it's still a really enjoyable experience for people to pick up and play. Now, Tekken 8, I don't want that to happen. For number one, I don't want Tekken 8 to be stuck in arcades. I don't think that's fun. I don't think that's cool. I just don't want to have that happen again. I don't like that is so... I don't like that is out of our hands, and I don't like that a group of people get to practice the game while we don't, you know, and by we being just everybody who doesn't have an arcade scene, right? Arcades just can't really function anymore. I don't think that's an environment to release a Tekken 8 in. I realize this is controversial because there's a lot of great balance stuff that can happen when you just release in arcades and then work on the game that way without officially releasing it. You can get a lot of balance stuff done, right? It's really helpful. I get that part. It's like a beta test almost, but with a full game. I just don't think it's fair for people that get to play and learn about the game while everybody else doesn't. I really, really feel that's wrong. I just don't like it. Chimon, come on, Chimon. Chimon was the best thing for T7. You can argue it. I don't know if I really have enough evidence to say that it wasn't the best thing for Tekken 7. especially considering the game is doing well and has been doing well. It's a very strong argument that it might have even been the best thing for Tekken 7, sure. But I really don't like that there was a core group of people that managed to get good at Tekken 7 while everybody else ate shit for a number of years. I don't know exactly how long it was. I think it might have been 3 years or something like that. That is a long time to have to play catch up. You know what I'm saying? So that, let's be real here. Even if the game released all at once, America still wouldn't be very well represented, right? In tournaments and shit, I'm sure the Korean gods, the Japanese legends, they would have decimated everybody in Tekken anyways. Doesn't matter, right? But it does matter in terms of sportsmanship. I think to be a fair, equal playing level, you need to release it for everybody. I truly and honestly believe that. As a consumer, as a person that's just playing games, my enjoyment of the game really comes around when I'm building the game with everybody else. The first time a fighting game comes out, it is really, really fun because everybody is learning it. When you have a segment of people that have learned it well before you did, the game is not nearly as fun. And while we still have a whole continent of people that haven't played it, we have multiple continents of people who have. And for up to 3 years, maybe longer. It just throws everything out of whack. It's more important for fighting games to release fresh, brand new for everybody, so that everybody gets to start on the same level. Am I saying it would have changed tournaments? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that as a purely enjoyable perspective, learning a fighting game is what's supposed to be fun about a fighting game. Learning a fighting game with other people who are also learning the fighting game is really the crux of what makes them so fun. When you have when you have any segment of people learn the game and then everybody else who doesn't learn the game, doesn't have as much time to learn the game and all that stuff, and then mix them all together in one moment, I think it dilutes the hype of the game, the freshness, the value of the game. I really do think it ruins something very important. And it's kind of a sportsmanship thing, but it's also, if we're looking at it a tournament side, kind of a sportsmanship thing. But it's really just the enjoyment of a first day, brand new game, fighting game just came out sort of situation. That hype is ruined. The hype is actually ruined. And that's how I felt with Tekken 7. I really did. Granted, it didn't matter because Tekken 7 ended up being a great game, probably because it was in development, quote unquote, for 3 years or plus. Being played in arcades. Yeah, sure. But we were still having tournaments for it and shit, and nobody could practice. Like, come on, man. That's fucked up. Second thing, we need to get away from COVID. We need to get out of this COVID thing. Maybe not so much away totally from COVID, but we need to get to the point where we can have real tournaments. We need real tournaments, like we were talking about, for all those reasons. We need to have the real tournaments, and that will help drive the success of Tekken 8. I really think so. In any future fighting game, I really think Strive is unique. Excuse me, I said it again. Sorry. That game, which should not be mentioned, but I did. I apologize. Is in a unique situation where it is trying to prove something about online capabilities for fighting games. That is good, and I think that is going to help the game itself kind of push along. I really think that's going to help. But when we're talking about like real excitement, long-lasting, the longevity of a fighting game, I really think it needs to be released in a time frame where we can have local tournaments. I really do. It just hurts too much to have these online-only things. I really think it hurts. Online can exist. That's totally fine. Online tournaments, fine. But, the good stuff is really the locals. Or the nationals, or whatever it is. These Tekken World Tours and the Capcom Pro Tour, whatever they call it. All that stuff is really important. So I think those two things are very, very essential for Tekken 8 to be successful. And there could be more discussion on this Tekken 8 stuff, right? Like if they're not going to do an arcade release and then get their training in, get their ironing out of issues during the, however long years it is in an arcade. Where do you get that from? What do you do? Like, what's the alternative? Well, You could go the Street Fighter V route and do constant updates. That is an option. I don't know if it's a good option. I mean, Street Fighter V clearly showed that it could be a bad option. But at the same time, I mean, if you look at it, Street Fighter V had multiple betas, and in each one, they took out everything fun as it went along. What if you had a company that actually listened to the people playing the game and they didn't take out all the fun stuff? What if you just had open betas, you know, however many you need, pace them out, you know, do your testing, and what if you just didn't make bad decisions? You know what I'm saying? Because we look at Street Fighter V and we try and use that as an example of this is a bad decision of releasing a game without any testing, right? This is a bad decision. But that's not fair, because we're basically taking an example of what one company did and how badly they performed it, how badly they did it. Not only did they badly perform in all these betas, but the matchmaking itself was badly performed. Their online latency or their online netcode or whatever, you know, their system was totally broken. It was totally laughably broken. It was laughably broken. And then they installed a fucking rootkit in people's PCs. It's not fair to say that this method is wrong because this one company so royally fucked it up. I'm trying to say that the method could still be sound. You just need a company that actually listens to the player base. That's all you need. You got to listen to the player base, the people who are buying, who are wanting to play the game, who will create content for the game. They need to be on the same level. They have to be on that level where you're not going to rip out all the things that are fun. It's not fair to say Street Fighter V and that method are synonymous. It's not fair to say that every beta a fighting game is going to have in this method will always end the same way. All the fun things you like will be ripped out. I just don't think it's fair. That game, which will not be mentioned, has had 3 betas, and there has been some things changed, but nothing to the extent Street Fighter V had undergone. Nothing. I mean, literally nothing that significant has changed for most of those betas. The game still plays largely the way it did when it had its first beta. Unlike Street Fighter V, which they were like straight up ripping out mechanics as betas went on. So people would say Street Fighter V is a bad example of that. I would say look at how that game, which cannot be described because Tula's in chat, did it. Look at that one. And tell me that it's not feasible. Then tell me that sitting in an arcade for 3 years is the better alternative, while only a small segment of community or people actually get access to it and can grind and do all that stuff, you know? I don't like that it gives them an advantage. I don't like it gives anyone. I wouldn't like it if it came out here and not in Asia or anywhere else. It's not fair. It's not fair. And just on top of things, it's really frustrating not having access to something that everybody else does. It really makes you not want to care about the game. And I don't know. I mean, I wish I had sales figures of when Tekken 7 actually came out, because I know that the game does great now. But maybe it did really shitty when it came out because nobody really cared. Because I was like, isn't this a game that came out 3 years ago? You know what I'm saying? I don't really know. I'm just making that part up. But everything else makes sense, you know? I think I laid out a reasonable argument. Who cares about fair? I care because I want to have fun with the most amount of learning possible. That's all I care about. Fuck nasty, you piece of shit. I'm taking a break, alright? It's just a vocal break. Fine, I'm done ranting. I talked about it. I shared my thoughts. Let's get back to fucking up this boss, huh? Good to see you, fuck nasty, you piece of shit.